The autumn rain painted silver streaks across the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Meridian Gallery. Cassie Morrison carefully adjusted the spotlight above a bronze sculpture, her fingers steady despite the exhaustion pulling at her bones. She had worked a double shift at the diner that morning before rushing to the gallery for tonight's exclusive charity auction. Sleep was a luxury she could no longer afford. The gallery buzzed with excitement as wealthy patrons arrived in designer clothes and expensive perfumes. Cassie watched them from her position near the back wall, their laughter floating through the air like champagne bubbles. These people lived in a different universe, one where money solved problems instead of creating them. She smoothed down her simple black dress, borrowed from Rebecca, and reminded herself to stay invisible. Her phone vibrated in her pocket. Another text from the hospital about Lily's treatment schedule. Cassie's chest tightened as she thought of her younger sister lying in that sterile room, fighting a battle no teenager should face. The leukemia had returned 3 months ago, more aggressive than before. The experimental treatment their doctor recommended cost more than Cassie earned in 5 years. A commotion near the entrance pulled her attention. The crowd parted like the Red Sea as a tall man entered the gallery. Nathaniel Grant moved with the confidence of someone who owned every room he walked into. His dark suit fit perfectly across his broad shoulders, and his presence seemed to command silence. Cassie recognized him from business magazines Rebecca left lying around. The youngest real estate developer to build a billion-dollar empire. The man who turned abandoned neighborhoods into thriving communities. The man whose personal life remained as mysterious as his success was public. Their eyes met across the crowded room. For a moment, time seemed to pause. His gaze was intense, searching, as if he could see past her careful mask straight into her exhausted soul. Cassie looked away first, her heart beating faster than it should. She had no business noticing how striking his eyes were or how the corner of his mouth suggested he rarely smiled. The auction began, and Cassie focused on her duties. She helped catalog sold pieces, coordinated with winning bidders, and made sure the champagne kept flowing. When a tray of glasses nearly slipped from a waiter's hands, she caught it smoothly, preventing disaster. The gallery owner would have fired her on the spot for any mishaps tonight. She needed this job too desperately to risk mistakes. Hours passed in a blur of activity. As the crowd thinned near midnight, Cassie finally allowed herself to breathe. She was collecting empty glasses when she sensed someone standing behind her. The air shifted, charged with an unfamiliar energy. She turned to find Nathaniel Grant watching her with that same intense expression. Up close, he was even more imposing. The sharp angles of his face spoke of discipline and control. Everything about him radiated power, from his tailored clothes to the platinum watch on his wrist. "You work harder than anyone here tonight." His voice was deep, smooth like aged whiskey. Cassie straightened her shoulders. "Just doing my job, sir." He stepped closer, and she caught the subtle scent of his cologne. Something expensive and masculine. "I have a proposition for you." Before she could respond, he continued. "I need someone for one night. An event tomorrow. I will pay you $10,000 to accompany me." The words hit her like ice water. Cassie felt her face flush with humiliation and anger. She had dealt with inappropriate comments before, but never something this blatant, this calculated. The casual way he offered money made her stomach turn. Did he think she was the type of woman who could be bought? Did her struggles show so clearly that he assumed she had no dignity left? Her hand moved before her mind could stop it. The slap echoed through the nearly empty gallery. Nathaniel's head turned slightly from the impact, his eyes widening in genuine shock. Several remaining guests gasped, and Cassie felt the gallery owner's horrified stare burning into her back. "How dare you?" Her voice shook with fury. "I am not some object you can purchase for your entertainment. I work 2 jobs to support my family. I might be exhausted and desperate, but I am not for sale. Not for 10,000, not for any amount." She pulled off her gallery badge and dropped it on the nearest table. Without waiting for his response or her boss's inevitable firing, Cassie grabbed her coat and walked out into the rain. Her entire body trembled as she stood on the sidewalk. She had just destroyed one of her income sources, but the alternative was surrendering what remained of her self-respect. Some prices were too high, even for someone as desperate as her. The rain soaked through her thin coat as she walked to the subway station. Tears mixed with rainwater on her cheeks. How would she explain losing this job to Lily? How would they manage when they could barely afford rent as it was? But every time she replayed the scene, she felt the same surge of righteous anger. She had made the right choice, even if it cost her everything. 3 days crawled by in agonizing slowness. Cassie picked up extra shifts at the diner, her feet aching and her smile forced. She avoided telling Lily about losing the gallery job, not wanting to add stress to her sister's already fragile condition. But Wednesday afternoon, her carefully maintained composure shattered completely. The hospital called just as her shift ended. Cassie listened to the doctor's words, each one landing like a physical blow. Lily's condition had deteriorated rapidly. The cancer was spreading faster than they anticipated. Without the experimental treatment, her sister had maybe 4 months. With treatment, her chances of survival jumped to 70%. The cost was $150,000. Insurance would cover barely a third. Cassie sat on a bench outside the diner, staring at her phone long after the call ended. $150,000. She might as well need $10 million. There was no amount of overtime or extra shifts that could bridge that gap. She had already tried crowdfunding, raising less than $3,000. Every loan application came back denied. She had nothing left to sell, no relatives to borrow from. Their parents died in a house fire when Cassie was 19, leaving her to raise Lily alone. Her phone buzzed with an unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her answer. "Miss Morrison?" A woman's voice, professional and crisp. "My name is Patricia Holmes. I work for Nathaniel Grant. He would like to meet with you to discuss a business arrangement. Tell him I have nothing to discuss with him." Cassie's voice was flat. "This concerns your sister's medical situation. Mr. Grant is prepared to cover all treatment costs." The world tilted sideways. "What did you say?" "He will explain everything. Can you meet him tomorrow at 2? I will send you the address." "How does he know about Lily?" "Mr. Grant has resources. Will you come?" Cassie closed her eyes, thinking of Lily's pale face, her brave smile, her dreams of becoming a teacher. Pride meant nothing if her sister died. "I will be there." The restaurant occupied the top floor of a building that seemed to touch the clouds. Cassie stepped out of the elevator into a space that screamed exclusivity. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of the city below, while soft piano music drifted through the air. The hostess led her through the main dining room to a private area separated by frosted glass panels. Nathaniel sat at a table near the window, his posture relaxed but his eyes sharp and alert. He stood as she approached, a gesture that seemed oddly formal given their last encounter. "Cassie. Thank you for coming." She remained standing, her arms crossed defensively. "Let us not pretend this is a social visit. What do you want? Please sit. We need to have a real conversation." Reluctantly, she took the chair across from him. A waiter appeared immediately with water and menus, but Nathaniel dismissed him with a subtle gesture. They were alone in the private space, the city sprawling beneath them like a glittering carpet. "Your sister needs treatment immediately." Nathaniel began without preamble. "The experimental protocol at Memorial Hospital. Dr. Harrison is one of the best oncologists in the country. I have already spoken with him. He can start treatment within 48 hours if you agree." Cassie felt her throat tighten. "In exchange for what?" "Marriage." A real, legal marriage. The words hung in the air between them like a challenge. Cassie stared at him, certain she had misheard. You want to marry me? For 1 year. A contract marriage. He leaned forward slightly, his expression serious. I need a wife for business reasons. There is a major development project in Singapore. The investors are traditional, family-oriented. They believe in stability, commitment. Being married will secure the deal. This is insane. You could marry anyone. Why me? Because you are real. Nathaniel's gaze held hers steadily. Everyone in my world wears masks. They want something from me. Money, connections, status. But you slapped me. You chose dignity over $10,000 even though you desperately needed it. That kind of integrity is rare. He slid a leather folder across the table. This is the contract. 1 year of marriage. You and Lily will live in my home. All her medical expenses covered, the best doctors, private care. You will attend business events with me when necessary, play the role of my wife in public. In private, we maintain separate lives. Separate bedrooms, no expectations beyond the agreement. After 1 year, we divorce quietly. You receive a settlement of $700,000. Cassie opened the folder with trembling hands. The contract was thick, filled with legal terminology that made her head spin. But certain phrases jumped out. Full medical coverage for Lily Morrison including all treatments, medications, and aftercare. Monthly allowance of $5,000 for personal expenses. No physical intimacy required or expected. $700,000 settlement upon completion of contract terms. It read like something from a movie, too surreal to be real. Why would you do this? Her voice barely rose above a whisper. I told you. I need a wife. But you are asking me to lie. To everyone. To live a fake life for a year. Nathaniel's expression remained neutral. I am asking you to enter a mutually beneficial business arrangement. You need money for your sister's treatment. I need a wife to close a deal worth $200 million. We both get what we need. He paused. I am not asking you to fall in love with me. I am not offering romance or happily ever after. This is a transaction, nothing more. Cassie looked out the window at the city lights. How many people down there would kill for this opportunity? How many would sign without hesitation? But the thought of lying to Lily, of pretending to be in love with a stranger, made her stomach churn. What if someone finds out? What if your investors discover the truth? They will not. My lawyer has ensured the contract is airtight. To the outside world, we are a couple who met and married quickly. Love at first sight, if you want the romantic version. No one will question it. I need guarantees. Cassie's voice grew stronger. If I agree, I want it in writing that Lily's care continues for life, regardless of what happens between us. If something goes wrong, if the contract ends early, her treatment does not stop. Done. Nathaniel made a note in the margin. What else? I want to finish my art degree. I was 2 years in when I had to drop out to work full-time. You will have access to the best schools and all the time you need to study. The tuition will be covered. And Lily lives with me. She is my responsibility. I have a house with 8 bedrooms. There is plenty of space. She will have her own room, a private nurse, whatever she needs. Nathaniel pushed a pen toward her. Anything else? Cassie picked up the pen, her hand hovering over the signature line. This was madness. Marrying a man she barely knew, living a lie, selling a year of her life. But when she closed her eyes, she saw Lily's face. Her sister's smile, her dreams of teaching, her determination to beat the cancer. What was 1 year of discomfort compared to Lily's entire future? She signed her name, the pen scratching across paper sealing her fate. Nathaniel signed below hers, his signature bold and confident. My lawyer will file the marriage license tomorrow. We will have a civil ceremony on Friday at 10. Pack whatever you and Lily need. My assistant Patricia will coordinate the move this weekend. Just like that? Cassie felt numb. Just like that. He stood and extended his hand. Welcome to the arrangement, Cassie Morrison. Soon to be Cassie Grant. She took his hand, feeling the warmth of his palm against hers. For a moment, their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. Not attraction exactly, but recognition. Two people doing what they had to do to survive in a world that demanded impossible choices. The civil ceremony took place in a courthouse that smelled of old wood and floor polish. Cassie wore a simple cream dress Rebecca helped her choose, while Nathaniel appeared in a navy suit that probably cost more than her old car. There were no flowers, no music, no guests except Lily in her wheelchair and Patricia serving as witness. The judge, a tired-looking woman in her 60s, recited the vows in a monotone voice that stripped away any romance from the moment. Do you, Nathaniel Grant, take Cassandra Morrison to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. His voice was steady, businesslike. And do you, Cassandra Morrison, take Nathaniel Grant to be your lawfully wedded husband? Cassie looked at Lily, who smiled encouragingly despite her pale face and thin frame. I do. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. There was no kiss. Nathaniel simply nodded, and they signed the marriage certificate. The entire process took 12 minutes. Cassie felt hollow as they walked out into the gray morning, legally bound to a stranger. The Grant estate sat on 5 acres of perfectly landscaped grounds. The house itself was a stunning blend of modern architecture and classic design. Large windows, warm stone walls, and a garden that looked professionally maintained. It was beautiful in a way that made Cassie feel like an intruder. Patricia met them at the entrance, her efficiency masking a genuine warmth. Welcome home, Mrs. Grant. Let me show you around. Lily's room was on the first floor, decorated in soft blues and whites. A hospital-grade bed stood ready, medical equipment discreetly placed, large windows overlooking the garden. A private bathroom connected to an adjacent room where a nurse named Caroline would stay. Lily burst into tears the moment she saw it. Cassie, this is like a dream. I cannot believe this is real. It is real, sweetheart. Cassie hugged her sister gently. You are going to get better now. That is all that matters. Her own bedroom was on the second floor, far from Nathaniel's master suite at the opposite end. The space was larger than their entire previous apartment. A king-sized bed with soft linens, a sitting area with comfortable chairs, a walk-in closet already stocked with clothes in her size, and a bathroom with a tub that could fit 3 people. Patricia had thought of everything. Mr. Grant said to tell you that dinner is at 7 when he is home, but you are free to eat whenever you like. Patricia explained. The kitchen is always stocked. If you need anything, just use the intercom system. He also wanted me to give you this. She handed Cassie a credit card with her new name embossed on it. For any personal expenses. That first night, Nathaniel did not come home until past midnight. Cassie heard his footsteps in the hallway, pausing briefly outside her door before continuing to his own room. She lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering what she had gotten herself into. The house was beautiful, the arrangement was clear, but she felt more alone than ever. She was married to a stranger who treated their relationship like a business merger. Which, she supposed, was exactly what it was. The first week in the Grant estate passed in a strange blur of adjustment and discovery. Cassie woke each morning in sheets softer than anything she had ever touched, in a room filled with morning light that felt almost magical. But the luxury could not mask the strangeness of her new reality. She was living in a beautiful prison, bound by a contract to a man who remained as distant as a stranger on the street. Lily's treatment began immediately. Dr. Harrison proved to be everything Nathaniel promised. Kind, thorough, and genuinely optimistic about Lily's chances. Cassie sat through the first chemotherapy session holding her sister's hand, watching the medicine drip slowly into her veins. The nurse Caroline stayed close, monitoring every vital sign with careful attention. When Lily finally fell asleep, exhausted but peaceful, Cassie allowed herself to cry quietly in the hallway. She found Nathaniel in his study that evening, surrounded by architectural plans and financial reports. He looked up when she knocked, his reading glasses making him seem almost approachable. "Come in." She stepped into the room, taking in the floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and the massive desk that dominated the space. "I wanted to thank you. For Lily. For everything. You are giving her a chance at life. You do not need to thank me. We have an agreement. But this is more than business to me." Cassie's voice cracked slightly. "You saved my sister. That matters, contract or not." Something shifted in his expression, a crack in the carefully maintained facade. He removed his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose, suddenly looking tired. "My younger brother died when I was 16. Leukemia, like Lily. We could not afford the treatment he needed. I watched him fade away over 6 months while my parents worked themselves to exhaustion trying to raise money." He paused, his jaw tight. "I swore I would never feel that helpless again. That no one in my life would suffer because of money." Cassie felt her heart squeeze painfully. She had assumed Nathaniel was simply cold, calculating, motivated purely by business. But here was the truth beneath the surface. A boy who lost his brother. A man who built an empire on the foundation of that loss. "I am sorry," she whispered. "That must have been horrible. It made me who I am." He stood abruptly, as if regretting the moment of vulnerability. "Your sister will get better. Dr. Harrison is the best. She has every advantage my brother never had." The conversation ended there, but something had changed between them. Cassie began to see Nathaniel differently. She noticed how he asked about Lily's treatment every evening, how he made sure Caroline had everything she needed, how he personally spoke with Dr. Harrison after each appointment. He might call it business, but his actions spoke of something deeper. 2 weeks into the marriage, Nathaniel's business circle demanded their first public appearance. A gala fundraiser for children's hospitals, ironic given their own situation. Patricia helped Cassie prepare, bringing in a stylist who transformed her into someone she barely recognized. The emerald dress hugged her curves perfectly, her hair swept up in an elegant style, makeup subtle but striking. When she descended the stairs, she found Nathaniel waiting in the foyer. He looked up, and for the first time, she saw genuine surprise in his eyes. "You look beautiful." The simple compliment made her blush. "Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself." The gala was everything she expected. Wealthy people in expensive clothes, champagne flowing freely, orchestral music filling a ballroom that could hold hundreds. Nathaniel kept his hand on the small of her back as they moved through the crowd, introducing her as his wife with a pride that seemed almost real. She played her part, smiling and making polite conversation, letting people believe in their fairy tale romance. But then Victoria appeared. Nathaniel's ex-fiancée was stunning in a way that made Cassie feel instantly inadequate. Tall, blonde, with the kind of beauty that came from generations of good genes and expensive maintenance. Her red dress probably cost more than Cassie's entire wardrobe. Well, well. Victoria's smile was sharp as a knife. "Nathaniel Grant, married. I never thought I would see the day." She turned her predatory gaze to Cassie. "And who is this charming creature?" "This is my wife, Cassie." Nathaniel's voice held a warning edge. "Victoria, nice to see you." "Is it though?" Victoria sipped her champagne slowly. "I heard you got married very suddenly." "Very quietly." Some people might find that suspicious. We value our privacy. Nathaniel's hand tightened slightly on Cassie's back. Now if you will excuse us. Not so fast. Victoria stepped closer, her perfume overwhelming. I know you, Nathaniel. This does not fit your pattern. You do not do spontaneous. You do not do love at first sight. So what is this really about? The Singapore deal? Cassie felt panic rising in her chest, but Nathaniel remained calm. My marriage is none of your concern. We broke up 2 years ago. Move on. Oh, I have moved on. Victoria's laugh was cold. But I wonder if your investors know that your wife was serving drinks at charity events a month ago. That she has a sick sister with expensive medical bills. That this whole thing smells like a business arrangement rather than a love story. The accusation hung in the air like poison. Cassie felt exposed, vulnerable, certain that everything was about to collapse. But then Nathaniel did something unexpected. He pulled Cassie closer, his arm wrapping around her waist protectively. You want to know the truth, Victoria? I fell in love with her the moment I saw her. She had this strength, this fire that none of the shallow people in our world possess. Yes, we married quickly because when you know, you know. And her sister is family now. I take care of family. Something I learned after you showed your true colors when my father got sick. Victoria's face flushed with anger. You are going to regret this. I have friends on that Singapore investment board. One word from me and your deal falls apart. Then make that call. Nathaniel's voice was steel. But know that if you interfere with my business or spread lies about my wife, I will make sure every door in this city closes to you. Your father's company is already struggling. How long do you think it will survive without the contracts I have been providing? The threat was clear. Victoria's eyes narrowed, but she stepped back. This is not over. She turned and walked away, her heels clicking sharply on the marble floor. Cassie released a breath she did not know she was holding. She could have ruined everything. Let her try. Nathaniel's voice was calm, but his body remained tense. I meant what I said. No one threatens my family. The word family hit Cassie harder than it should have. They drove home in silence, the evening's tension still thrumming through the car. When they reached the estate, Nathaniel walked her to her bedroom door, something he had never done before. You handled tonight well. Better than I expected. I felt like a fraud. You looked like you belonged. He hesitated, his hand on the doorframe. Victoria was wrong about one thing. What? This is not just business anymore. At least not for me. Before Cassie could respond, he walked away, leaving her standing in the hallway with her heart racing. She went to bed confused, her mind replaying his words over and over. What did he mean? Was he developing feelings, or was this another strategy to make their arrangement more convincing? The answer came 2 weeks later when Lily had a setback. Her body rejected part of the treatment, spiking a dangerous fever that sent them rushing to the hospital in the middle of the night. Cassie sat in the waiting room, her hands shaking, memories of losing her parents flooding back. She could not lose Lily. She could not survive that loss. Nathaniel found her there at 3 a.m. He had been at a business dinner across town but drove straight to the hospital when Patricia called him. He sat beside her without a word, his presence solid and grounding. She is going to be okay. Dr. Harrison is with her now. What if she is not? Cassie's voice broke. What if I lose her? You will not. He took her hand, his fingers warm and steady. She is strong. Like her sister. They sat there for hours while doctors worked to stabilize Lily. Cassie found herself leaning against Nathaniel's shoulder, too exhausted to maintain any pretense. He did not pull away. Instead, his arm came around her, holding her close while she cried silently. It was the first real physical contact between them, born not from their contract but from genuine human need. Lily pulled through. By morning, her fever had broken, and Dr. Harrison assured them it was a temporary reaction, already under control. Cassie stood by her sister's bed, watching her sleep peacefully, feeling the weight of the night slowly lift. Nathaniel stood beside her, his hand finding hers naturally. "We are going to get through this. All of us. Together." The word together felt different now. Cassie looked at him, really looked at him, and saw past the billionaire mask to the man underneath. The boy who lost his brother. The man who protected his family fiercely. The person who had become so much more than a business arrangement. When did this stop being fake? She asked quietly. "For me?" Nathaniel met her eyes. "About 2 weeks in. When you argued with the gardener about saving the roses instead of replacing them. You cared about things that most people in my world would not even notice." He paused. "What about you?" Cassie felt her heart skip. "Maybe when you showed up at the hospital with coffee during Lily's first treatment. When you sat with me even though you hate hospitals. When you stopped being the cold businessman and started being human. So what do we do now? We still have 10 months on the contract." "Forget the contract." Nathaniel turned to face her fully. "I do not want this to be an arrangement anymore. I want it to be real. I want to know everything about you. Your favorite color, your dreams, what makes you laugh. I want to fall asleep knowing you are down the hall and wake up wishing you were closer." Cassie felt tears building again, but this time from something entirely different. "I am scared. This was supposed to be simple. Business. No complications. Life is never simple." He brushed a strand of hair from her face, his touch gentle. "But maybe complicated is better. Maybe real is worth the risk. What if it does not work out? What if we ruin everything? Then we will figure it out. But I would rather try and fail than spend the next 10 months pretending I do not care about you." Cassie made her decision. She closed the distance between them and kissed him softly. It was different from anything she imagined. Not desperate or passionate, but tender. Full of possibility and promise. When they pulled apart, Nathaniel smiled. An actual, genuine smile that transformed his entire face. "So we are doing this? For real this time?" "For real." She smiled back. "No more separate lives? No more pretending?" He kissed her forehead. "No more walls. Just us, figuring it out together." 3 months later, Lily's cancer went into remission. The celebration was small but meaningful. Just the 3 of them and Rebecca, dinner in the estate's garden under string lights. Cassie watched her sister laugh at something Nathaniel said, her color returned, her energy back. This was what she had sold a year of her life for. Except she was not selling anything anymore. She had found something real in the middle of a business arrangement. That night, after Lily went to bed and Rebecca headed home, Cassie and Nathaniel sat on the terrace overlooking the city. His arm was around her shoulders, her head resting against his chest. "The contract expires in 7 months." She said quietly. "I have been thinking about that. About what happens after. And? I was thinking maybe we tear it up. Start over without any agreements or settlements or end dates. Just 2 people who want to be together." Cassie lifted her head to look at him. "You would give up the protection of the contract?" "I do not need protection from you. I trust you. That is worth more than any legal document." He pulled a small box from his pocket. "I know we are already married, but this time I want to do it right." He opened the box to reveal a simple but beautiful ring. "Cassie Morrison Grant, will you marry me again? For real this time, with love and forever and all the messy complicated wonderful things that come with it?" Tears streamed down Cassie's face as she nodded. Yes. 1,000 times yes. He slipped the ring on her finger, and this time when they kissed, it held all the promise of a real future. A future built not on contracts or necessity, but on genuine love that grew in the space between obligation and choice. What started as a business arrangement had transformed into something neither of them expected. Something real, something lasting, something worth fighting for. As they sat together under the stars, Cassie thought about the night she slapped him in the gallery. How she could never have imagined it would lead here. To love, to family, to a home that felt real. Sometimes the best things in life came from the most unexpected places. And sometimes, just sometimes, a business arrangement could become the greatest love story of all.